Survivors. It's been a while since our last vlog, and there's definitely a lot to discuss regarding Dead Matter. I just want to use this as a platform to share what we've been working on, discuss our failures in the past, and inform everyone about how we're moving forward towards the future. First off, let's start with the bad. We're aware, and you most likely are too, of the horrible state that we launched the game in. I genuinely want to take full responsibility for everything that led to the state we launched in. I'm not going to beat around the bush, blame influencers, or pretend that things went well. We're being as transparent as physically possible, as we 100% owe it to the people that still have faith in us. Following the initial reception on Steam, we made the conscious decision to remain silent until we had overall made some significant progress to unveil. In our opinion, any communication from us that had no wow factor behind it would, at that point, just be the wrong move and would only add fuel to the fire. On top of this, staying silent has led us to reflect on the project's history, reassess our core values, and pinpoint the critical issues with both the project and our communication. Listen clearly, we have not and will not abandon the game regardless of what has happened so far. Dead Matter is set in stone to be a survival game worth playing through our hard work, persistence, and dedication. We're in it for the long haul, and we will be making this dream a reality. We will not be going away, I'm afraid. Before diving into the details of what's changed with the game, I want to again assure you of our unwavering commitment to fulfilling our promises and rebuilding the trust within our community. At the tail end of the video, we'll outline the tangible steps we're taking to address issues with our communication and ensure that your feedback plays a pivotal role in our ongoing development process. As they say, actions speak louder than words, so without further delay, let's forward to the current version of the game, which is looking a lot closer to what we originally intended to release back in September. This new build is now live on Steam Early Access. First off, we've cleaned up a lot of the performance-related issues on the client. People were struggling to run the game without any sort of AI upscaling, even on the lowest settings. While we want Dead Matter to be a looker and UE5 is a next-generation game engine, this was just not acceptable by any means, especially when people using video cards such as a 3090 or 4090 were struggling to run the game at all. While performance is not perfect now, especially on older systems, overall it has been significantly improved. Some of the changes that we've made are simply to the way that the trees are rendering, using lower poly meshes which have unlocked a lot of frames, as well as tweaking the way that the water rendering and the window rendering works. There's also a lot more that has gone into this, but the devil is in the details. Just keep in mind that Dead Matter does cache a lot of data to the disk as you play the game. You'll likely encounter some stuttering in your first hour or so of play, but this should die down over time as your system caches more data, such as the shaders and the item icons. Shifting over to the server, we were able to diagnose and address a lot of the performance issues that we were seeing. When the game initially launched, our servers were running at about a half a frame to 2 frames a second. This just wasn't ideal in any world, and it turned out that there were a laundry list of issues that we had to address in order to clean up the server performance. Ranging from issues related to how much information we were trying to send, how the server was computing what information to send. We've refactored a lot of the underlying netcode in the game, and while it's not perfect, it's a much more playable experience overall compared to what we released. We're happy to report that the server now runs at 20 to 30 Hz, provided the hardware that you're running it on is capable of it, and depending on how many players are connected. There are dips here and there, but combined with the movement code being tweaked, there should be far less rubber banding than before. Just keep in mind that if you want to play a server, there are 25,000 characters in our game, as infected are spawned once at the server start. Ideally, you should be running the server on something with at least 8 cores and a relatively modern CPU. In addition to server-side improvements for the netcode, we've also added client-side prediction to a lot of the interaction in the game, as much as we possibly could. For those that do not know, client-side prediction is the act of doing things on the client before they happen on the server. This reduces how laggy the multiplayer experience can feel without ever having to change anything on the server itself. In fact, all of the footage that you've been watching thus far has actually been me playing on a server. While there are some issues here and there, the experience is much more solid than before. Character creation has been brought back to life with over 50 faces that you can pick from, with the ability to mix and match different skin tones and hair colors and eye colors. This affords flexibility while preserving the overall realism of the character creation system. As a bonus, we have also updated the first-person hand meshes for ones that match the appearance of your character. This is with the goal of improving the overall immersion of the game. To address issues with the game's atmosphere feeling just sort of off and not really like Dead Matter, we've made some tweaks to the weather patterns. There is now much less of a focus on sunny afternoons, and more of a focus on the bleak weather that is reflective of the game taking place in the Rocky Mountains. Cloudy, overcast, foggy, miserable weather with the player getting regularly hit by rain, thunderstorms, and even the occasional blizzard. To go with our atmospheric changes, we've added streetlights that automatically switch on at night to help guide the player through the decaying world of post-apocalyptic Alberta, and to more strongly signal that the game takes place right after things have started to fall apart, leaving our timeline a lot less ambiguous. And, just like any other light in the game, you can shoot these out. Another thing that I would like to address is all of the rivers in the game, and all of the overall unfinished areas. Any area that is still a work in progress has been walled off with concrete barriers so that you know what is expected to be played in versus what is not. The parts of the map that have not been walled off have also been given a pass. Every single river has been given a pass to turn them from crudely carved in canyons into something worth looking at. In addition to this, the run to Dominion was quite a boring one. However, we have fleshed out the river swamp area to address this. There are over 10 locations and points of interest that you can explore within this new area. The cabins by Pasco Lake that were once empty and abandoned have now been detailed. We have updated the in-game map with additional points of interest for you to explore. This update contains much more than just improvements towards the performance and overall polish of the map. We've also focused on the gameplay. One of the things that we wanted to focus on was changing the way that you navigated the world. You will now have to break into buildings, as any door that grants access to a building that can be claimed has a 90% chance of being locked by default. Don't worry though, there are many ways to handle this problem. You can break the windows and climb through them. If you prefer to be silent and the building has sliding windows, you can use a crowbar to pry those open. If you get a set of lockpicks, you can also pick the lock on the door. Once you've broken inside of a building, you can let your friends in by simply unlocking the door from the inside. Keep in mind that windows that slide open and close also have a random chance of being locked, and maybe you'll get lucky and you can just open one to crawl inside. We have expanded the sources of water that are available to the player in the world. Sinks, rivers, toilets, water fountains, and water coolers all now serve as sources of water for the player to drink. There are now additional interactable objects throughout the world, such as radios that can be used to listen to emergency broadcasts, clocks which can be used to tell the in-game time, to stoves that can be used to cook food. Our next update will see the electrical system going offline after a certain point in-game, which means that we've gone ahead and have already added cooktops that support burning wood, such as fireplaces, campfire barbecues, and quite a few other options. You can also now camp a craft fire by simply taking 8 sticks and using the crafting menu. Be warned that if you use a fireplace or a wood-burning stove as an alternative when the power goes out, that they will create a visible smokestack. While you can simply cook a campfire from anything, in order to cook with a campfire, you will need a tripod and a grill attachment for the tripod. As a bonus, you can also take lanterns that you find in the world and attach those to the tripod. Majority of the existing campfires in the map, or even the lanterns in the map, or the sleeping bags, have all been converted over to the new interactable objects. If we missed any, please file a bug report. If you don't feel like building a campfire, you can also find a portable stove. Keep in mind that you will need to also find butane for these. If you have a butane canister, you can refill them at physical gas canisters found throughout the map. There is also an electric lantern. If you wish to use the electric lantern, you'll need to find a 6-volt lantern battery. If you can't find one, try to find a building with an emergency light on. You can usually pull a 6-volt battery out of one of these. As a bonus, you can also insert a 6-volt battery to recharge them. Claims have now been completely rewritten from the ground up. In order to claim a building, simply find the electrical box, walk up to it, and interact with it in order to claim the building. From there, you can then pull out a hammer or a welding torch in order to build things. Currently, we've had the basics, like furniture such as a chair, table, and bed, as well as shelves and storage boxes. In addition to that, you can also grow planters that allow you to grow your own food, as well as rain collector barrels that let you harvest rain from the sky. If you want to get started on gardening, simply find a bush and press G on it to harvest it. Another way that you can harvest from a bush is take a melee weapon with a blade on it and simply hit the bush. If you have a claim on a server and you're worried about other players breaking in, then you'll need to gain access to one of the bunkers that we've added to the map. You can gain access to Gamma Mike, located at Grotto Mountain, or you can gain access to the Federal Stockpile. Both of these bunkers contain Nara barricades. These barricades are immune to damage, unless the damage source is an explosive. You can find explosives for base raiding inside of the abandoned mines. There's one near Exshaw, and then there's one on the Quaint Valley Trail. You can also find explosives in the KP Armory, as well as Pasco Cave. Back to what's been fixed and made better, we've made some pretty serious improvements to our gunplay, weapon handling, as well as addressing a multitude of issues within the weapon system. Red dot sights, hollow sights, and scopes should now be functional. They still have a little bit further to go in terms of polish, but they are now much more functional than before. There are far less issues related to the animation system overall. There are also now 4 legendary weapons hidden throughout the map. What I've covered in this video scratches the surface of this update. There's a lot of changes. In fact, we've made over 1,700 commits to our source control for this update alone. If we wrote out an itemized change list, there would likely be hundreds of small changes that you may not even notice while playing listed out. We're going to implement changes to our backend to make it easier to compose these change lists in the future. However, going back to what we mentioned at the start of this video, here's what we're going to be doing to keep our community updated. First off, we're going to be doing a post every single month to our website that will then be posted to our social media via Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, as well as email updates for the backers. We will then be doing a vlog once every 2 months or so. We'll also send out updates via the previously mentioned platforms once there's any sort of new patch available to keep people up to date. We've set up a GitHub page for us to track issues and bugs with the game, as well as a new page for our website. Please submit all issues that you have with the game there. We will have the link in the description. We're also using the discussions on the public repos to engage with people and allow our community to vote on features that they would like to see in the game, with anyone being able to submit their ideas. If you're not a fan of this, we've also set up additional discussion boards on our Steam forums for Dead Matter. Lastly, we have rebuilt the QI Games website from scratch. This is to help us address backer rewards such as the road signs and pet pictures. We now have the tools in Dead Matter to make these rewards a reality, and we will continue to make all of the rewards a reality throughout the next couple of years. That's pretty much it for this update. We recognize that this update isn't some sort of miracle, but we feel that it is a strong step forward in the right direction. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone that has contributed to the development of this game, whether you're a backer, someone that's covered the game in the past, or just simply a fan of the project overall. Your support means the world to us, and we really appreciate it. That's it for now. Just keep in mind that this update is now live on Steam Early Access, and we will be rolling out additional updates and hotfixes as time goes on. Thank you all for watching, and have a great evening.